Alright everyone, I really hate to do this, but I had a video problem with our first round match, and our draft was so sweet. I really love our deck, so I didn't want to just scrap this entire draft because of a video problem with one round of it, because I think it's just such a sweet example of the 4 or 5 color craziness that you can do in full Block Ravnica. So while I hate to do this, for the first round, we're going to use the replay and just go through it quickly, and then we'll pick things up again in round 2. Spoiler alert, I guess. So anyway, this is how our first round match went. We keep a hand where we literally cannot cast a spell. We have white, blue, and black mana and 3 red cards. I think about it for a minute and realize my philosophy on mulliganing is if there's any chance we luck sack our way into winning with the hand by drawing the right stuff, then I keep it. So I keep it, knowing full well that we could be punished and lose without ever casting a spell. Meanwhile, our opponent mulligans to 6. We don't draw a red source on turn 1, but we do draw a Azorius First Wings, so it's something we can play on turn 2 with the mana we have, which is nice. Our opponent plays a bounce land. We draw a Disembowel, which will come in handy later. We play the Azorius First Wings, just a 2/2 flyer with protection from enchantments. Our opponent keeps developing their mana base, plays an Orzhov Signet. So right now we're thinking they're just straight black-white somehow, which is crazy, but that's what it looks like. We do draw a land, a Simic Growth Chamber, so a bounce land, but it doesn't give us red mana. Get in for 2 with Azorius First Wings, putting our opponent to 18. Simic Growth Chamber bounces a land, we pass the turn. Our opponent, are they actually going to play something? They play a Selesnya Guild Mage, which is a pretty powerful card. 4 and a green, they can make a 1/1 token, or 3 and a green, they can make a 1/1 token, 3 and a white, they can pump all their creatures. So that's a little scary. If they have green mana, which they obviously do if they're playing that, the card can get out of hand pretty fast, especially if we never draw our red mana for Ix Splitters to keep the tokens under control. So we attack with our Azorius First Wings and decide that it is worth spending our Disembowel to get rid of this Selesnya Guild Mage, just in case they draw green mana and can start going wide. Our opponent, unfortunately for them, misses their land drop, so they do nothing. We, of course, get our Lucky Mountain, so our entire hand is suddenly unlocked. So our deck did pay us off for the risky keep. It took a few turns, but because our opponent stumbled on mana, that was fine. So we play an Izzet Chronarch, decide that's the most efficient use of our mana, get back our Disembowel, so we have another removal spell for our opponent's next play. Our opponent finds a bounce land, so they do have green mana and red mana, which probably unlocks a lot of their hand, so we both drew our mana eventually. The problem for our opponent is we're already pretty far ahead. We get to attack with both our creatures, which puts our opponent down to 10. We have a handful of castable cards now that we have red mana. So we play an Ix Splitter here, play a land, pass the turn, and we're feeling pretty good about where we're at. We have essentially a 2-turn clock and a handful of removal spells. Our opponent plays a Nettling Curse. Not a very good card when you are behind. It's good if you're aggressive and ahead, but not good in this situation. And a Gobhobbler Rats, which is just a 2/2 since they're not Hellbent. So not too scary. We have removal spells for that, and we don't mind taking the 3 damage from Nettling Curse. So we just pillory up the Gobhobbler Rats, attack with both our creatures, which is going to put our opponent to a virtual 4, which means they're dead on board next turn. We take the 3 from Nettling Curse, because they're going to lose 2 from Pillory of the Sleepless, or 1 from Pillory of the Sleepless on their upkeep, and then we can ping them for another one with Rakdos Ix Splitter. So they lose the 1. They're going to need a huge play this turn if they want to stay in the game. And they find something decent. They find a Belfry Spirit. So Belfry Spirit, almost like Spectral Procession, makes 3 1/1 flyers for 5 mana when it enters the battlefield. Then it has Haunt. So when it dies, you exile it targeting a creature. And when that creature dies, you get 2 more 1/1 black bat tokens with flying. So they go kind of wide. The problem is we have the Rakdos Ix Splitter, which pings a creature and the controller of that creature loses a life. So we can start shooting down the bat tokens. So we shoot 1 down here. Our opponent drops to 4. We untap, draw a counter spell, which doesn't seem super relevant, but I guess it's nice just to have as a backup. We attack with both creatures, knowing our opponent, since they're going to lose a life with Pillory, has to double chump here, which should essentially win us the game. We lose 3 more from Nettling Curse. Our opponent realizes they're dead if they don't double chump. They double chump, and go with Gather Courage with Convoke off of their Selena Ledgewalker. So we think about it for a minute and decide, well, we might as well just spend our counter spell. It's not going to get any better. They're trying to save their Belfry Spirit. So we just go full out Overrule, gain 5 life, counter the Gather Courage. Our opponent loses both their creatures. They haunt the Gobhobbler Rats, which doesn't really matter. And then they scoop it up. So we got through game 1, we had a risky keep, our opponent stumbled on mana, but we got there. And then for game 2, we get another hand where we can't really cast much of anything. We have no black mana, only card we can cast is Devouring Light. We figure, well, it worked last time. Let's see if we can get lucky again. Our opponent goes to 5, presumably having mana troubles of their own. We play a land, our opponent plays a land, our opponent has a bounce land. We follow it up with a island, so we still really can't cast anything. Our opponent has the Guild Mage again, so it's a little scary. This time we don't just have a way to kill it, so we just have to play a Plains and Pass, and we're just praying that our opponent attacks so we can Devouring Light the Selesnya Guild Mage. So our opponent plays a Mountain, plays a Selesnya Evangel, another token producer, so they can start making 2 tokens a turn, even without anything in their hand, just for 5 mana, so it's a little scary. We really want to get our Rakdos Ix-Splitter down, so we're waiting. Our opponent's got to attack, right? Why would you not attack here? And our opponent figures out somehow we have Devouring Light, plays around it. So we're like, oh, all right. We draw a bounce land, not really what we want. It does get us our red mana for Ix-Splitter, but we still need black mana to do much of anything. Here I make a mistake. I play the bounce land. Probably should have just ran out this Shrieking Grotesque just as a 2/1 flyer, even though we wouldn't make our opponent discard. I think that was better than what I ended up doing, which was playing the bounce land, picking up the plains, and then just discarding. So that was a punt. I figured it out as soon as I did it that was a mistake. I was just so obsessed with getting the discard off this, I didn't even consider it without the extra kicker cost when I should have. So feeling a little bad about where we're at. We can't really cast anything important. Our opponent is going to start making a ton of tokens. They make a token. They make a token. This time, since we don't have Devouring Light mana up, they figure that they are safe to attack and correctly attack. Put us to 18. We untap. Still need black mana. Praying to Worth for black mana. Another plane. So this time, a turn late. I figure, yeah, we might as well play that Shrieking Grotesque. Still in pretty bad shape. It can't really block effectively. Our opponent can make a ton of tokens. Our opponent, this time, fails to play around Devouring Light by attacking with the Selesnya Guild Mage. So we block the Selesnya Guild Mage. Our opponent thinks, well, we got him now, and uses the Pump All the Creatures ability on Selesnya Guild Mage. Well, we convoke out our Devouring Light by tapping our Shrieking Grotesque. Get rid of the Selesnya Guild Mage. We take a big hit, but we get rid of probably clearly their best card on the battlefield. Then we untap and draw our swamp finally. So now I'm feeling like, well, maybe there's a chance. We can play our Rakdos Ix-Splitter, which keeps the tokens under control. They can make a token every turn, but we can shoot it down with Rakdos Ix-Splitter as long as it stays alive. So we get in for 2 with our Shrieking Grotesque. Our opponent, being the Selesnya deck, draws a second Selesnya Evangel. Now they can make 2 tokens every turn, so they can still make more tokens than we can kill with Rakdos Ix-Splitter, and we're down to 13. We choose not to dredge, draw Riot Spikes, and we go to attacks, get in with Shrieking Grotesque, put our opponent to 16, and we play our plains, and we decide that we're going to play a Blind Hunter. Blind Hunter drains for 2 when it enters the battlefield, and it's a blocker, so it kind of shuts down the tokens from attacking at least. And we can leave up our Overrule as just a Force Spike, so we can counter a spell unless its controller pays 1. Our opponent, though, is more interested in making tokens, so they don't really have too much of a motivation to cast spells. They get in for 2, decide to make some more tokens, make another token, we shoot it down with our Ix-Splitter. That might have been a mistake there. If they're going to pass and do nothing, it probably would have been better to leave the tokens back, make 2 tokens instead of suiciding one and letting one get hit by Ix-Splitter. But what do I know? We draw Crackling Flames, so it's another removal spell. We kind of want to save it to actually kill our opponent, though, so I hold on to it for now. We get in for 4 with our flyers, and now we're thinking we're actually winning this race. We can kill a token every turn, and then our opponent has Condemn, which shifts the whole clock again. So after thinking about it, decide that probably the best thing to do is just go full out overrule here. Gains us 5 life, keeps our clock on the battlefield. We go up to 18. Our opponent's down to a virtual 8 thanks to Ick Splitter. Plus we have this Crackling Flames in hand to potentially finish things. So while it seems weird to counter that Condemn to save a 2-mana creature, I think it was right. They burn out our Shrieking Grotesque and untap. So we're at 18, they're at 9. They can make 2 tokens every turn. But is it enough? Conclave Phalanx. Huge play from our opponent. Gains them back a ton of life. And again, they've gone so wide. We're down to just 1 2-powered flyer as an attacker. So it's kind of, I don't know if we can win this race now. Even though we're ahead on life, they can just go so much wider than us. We draw Swamp. Not too exciting here. We pillory up the Conclave Phalanx. Keep attacking. We're going to win by being aggressive. Our opponent is going to make way too many tokens for us to win the long game here. So we got to try to kill them before they can go wide enough to kill us. We use Riot Spikes on a Selesnya Evangel to get its toughness down to 1. Then we ping it down with Rakdos Ick Splitter. So we get rid of 1 of them. So now we're back to our opponent making 1 token every turn, which we can kind of keep under control with our Rakdos Ick Splitter. So we're taking 3 a turn. Oh, but there goes our Rakdos Ick Splitter. Destroy target multicolored creature. So now they can make tokens every turn, and we can't keep them under control. So their clock is increasing every turn. We just have the flyer. Untap, Flight of Fancy. Alright, we get to draw a couple cards. Our Blind Hunter already has flying, so that part isn't that exciting. But drawing 2 is nice. Our draw is more card draw and a mountain. So we decide we're going to keep attacking. We still think that the way to win this game is by being the aggro deck. We play the mountain. We consult the Necrosages to draw 2 more cards. Our opponent makes a token. We draw Absolver Thrall in Simic Girl's Chamber. Our opponent drops to 7 thanks to the Pillory. Plays the craziest thing in their deck, Orzhov, the Church of Deals. So pay 5, including a white and a black. Target player loses life, you gain a life. That seems like a stretch in that mana base, and very expensive for the effect. They play Fencer's Mage Mark, so enchanted creatures they control have +1/+1 in first strike. So now they can hit us for 5 this turn, dropping us to 10. They decide, though, that they're going to leave back Selesnya Evangel, so they can make another token with the Conclave Phalanx by tapping it. So we drop to 10. Our opponent's at 7. They don't know about the Crackling Flames in our hand, though. Our draw is Compulsive Research. Great draw. So we attack, put our opponent to 5, still on the aggro plan. And we're thinking, well, now our opponent's at 5. We have 3 points of damage of burn in our hand. If we can just get in 1 more attack, we actually win this game with Crackling Flames. Or if we get empty-handed. Unfortunately, we draw 3 lands with Compulsive Research, so getting empty-handed is not really an option. So that plan's off the table. We run out the Absolver Thrall, kill the Fencer's Mage Mark, and just pass the turn back, hope that our opponent doesn't have some overrunny type effect to actually kill us. If they give all their tokens +1/+1 until end of turn, we're pretty close to being dead. So our opponent goes attacking, they leave back a Saproling to block, and once that happens, we realize we're probably going to win. We get to untap, we draw a flyer, doesn't really matter. We attack with both creatures. Opponent blocks 1, drops to 2, and then we Crackling Flames for the win. So, again, I'm sorry for the replay. I hate doing it this way, but I didn't want to waste this draft. We have so much card draw and so many cool things and so many colors. So we will pick it up live with round 2 starting right now.